Now that we've been working in Fusion 360 on doing some design work, we're going to switch over to the manufacturing side of things so we can create some CNC programs. A couple of things to we have to talk about first are right now we're in the design space, right? And when we're in the design space, we have this little block up here in the top right, which shows you the top view, front view, and right view. Right now, the Z is pointed up and the X is pointed in the correct direction. If yours looks like this, we need to change how that looks so we're all set up the same way. So we're going to change something called preferences. And right up here where this little picture is with your name, you're going to click on that and then you're going to click on preferences. So this just sets up a bunch of parameters for how you can customize Fusion 360 to work for you. Now, in the General tab, we want to make sure over here on the upper left where it says General, we click that. And then we go down about halfway, it says Default Model Orientation is Z up. I want to change that. So I'm going to click on this, drop down, and click on Y up. And then Apply, and then OK. Now, nothing changes, as you can see up here, yet. So what we're going to do is just going to X out of this tab that we're in. So it says Untitled. And it will pop up with a new one, and now it's oriented correctly. You can see Z facing towards us, Y is facing up, and X is facing to the right. That's the correct model orientation that we're going to need to use for our design space. So now we need a design here if we're going to do any manufacturing. We're going to do something simple today. We're just going to create from part number PG-0001, we're going to create a block. So create a sketch, and what I want you to do is make sure you pick this plane to sketch on. It's going to be very important as far as how we set up our model for machining. So we'll click on this. The up and down is the Y, and the back and forth side to side is the X, which is like we're looking down on top of the part. In this case, we're going to do a 2-point rectangle, sketch it out, and dimension it to 3 inches wide, 2 inches high. I didn't mention it before, but make sure you are in inches and not in millimeters. It's very important. Finish that sketch, and we're going to extrude it to 0.960, which is what's on the drawing. 960 thick. And we're going to save this as part number PG-0001. Okay, so what do we do now? We need to make some CNC code for this. Excuse me. We're going to switch over our workspace. If we go up to the upper left where it says design, we'll click on that. And then we're going to switch over to manufacture workspace. So this, as you can see up top, it's changed. It's got a bunch of different icons, which we'll get into one by one. And the tree over here looks a little bit different. First thing we have to do is a setup. So I'm going to go up to the top here where it says setup, and then click on a new setup. And it kind of defaults to this. What you can see around the edges is stock all around this. You can also see that the XYZ datum is automatically gone to the center. I'm actually going to click on this dot over here for the stock point. So it's going to be up at the upper left-hand corner of the stock. That's where G54 will be. Okay. So I don't have to change anything else on this page where it says setup. I'm going to click to the next tab where it says stock. I know that I'm going to be using a certain size stock, so instead of relative stock, I'm going to change to a fixed size box. And it's going to be 3 inches by 2 inches by 1 inch. Now, if we zoom in a little closer here, you can see this lighter color on the edge on the bottom and the top of the stock where it's 1 inch wide right now. That's because over here, the height Z of 1 inch, the model is positioned in the center of the stock. We don't want that. We want that to be positioned from the top of the stock. And I know I've got a 960 thousandths thick part, And I know I've got 1-inch stock, so if I subtract that, I know I've got 40 thousandths cut off one side. So my offset is going to be 0.04. I'll change that to 0.040. And that just shifted all of the stock to the top. Okay, the last step in doing our setup is the post-process tab, which is information for when we create the NC code. Here we can give it a program number up to 5 digits. We don't put the letter O on here yet. We'll do that later. So I'll just give it any number. Okay. And then at the beginning, I can put a comment for the operator. Usually things like the part name, so PG-0001, and setup information like G54 upper left. And you can add as much as you want on there. It's fine. So now, okay, our setup is ready to go. Let's zoom this out a little bit so we can see it. All right. So what we want to do now is we want to do an operation. We got our setup is ready to go, and we need to do an operation. Well, there is a list where it says 2D that we're going to be working with. So we click on that. You're going to see all these different type of operations we can do. Today, we're just going to be concerned with facing. So I'll click on face. Now, there are 5 tabs over here on this window. All right. We got to start with the first one, which is the tool tab. We need to select a tool. In your case, we're not going to have any tools. So what you'll need to do is create what's called first a tool library. So these are lists of all different libraries of tools. All right. You're going to create your own. So you're going to click on where it says local, then right click and click on new library. And you're going to give it your name. So I'm going to say, this is library. Call it whatever you want as long as you remember what it is. And this is where we're going to keep making all our tools. All right. So there's nothing listed in here, no data. That's okay. We can add as many tools as we want with this plus sign. So the plus sign, we're going to click on new tool. And then you're going to click on a general tool type. So we got end mills, face mills, radius mills, engraving tools. We got hole making tools down here, drills and taps and all kinds of things. We're going to click on a face mill. Now we've got to describe what that is. In this first tab, the general tab, very easy. I'm just going to put 3-inch face mill. Okay. Second tab, the cutter. Type face mill. Unit is in inches. Number of flutes in this case, I'm going to click it up to 4 because I know I got a 4 flute tool. Got 4 cutting edges on it. Material of the tool is not high-speed steel. This is actually carbide because it's got the carbide tips on it down here. Diameter is the most important one for this one. I'm going to call it 3.0. And you can see that this has changed over here so that this orange cutting area is 3 inches diameter. Now we could get really specific with the shaft diameter and all these other parameters down here. But for a facing tool with what we're doing, it's very simple. We don't have to worry about it. We also don't have to worry about the shaft tab, the holder tab. We can skip right past that and go to cutting data. Very important, the speeds and feeds. This one just happens to be already set for us. It just happens to be 5,000 RPM, which is perfect, and 40 inches a minute feed rate, which for aluminum is also perfect. In this case, we don't have to do anything. We're good to go. So the next one, post-process was the last one, I should say. This is where we give it a tool number. All you got to do is put whatever tool number you want and then tab, and it's going to pick up the same tool number over and over again. With this, I'm going to call it tool number 1. And then, because it's usually the first tool we use anyways. Now I'm going to accept that. And then it's permanently in this library now. We can use it over and over again. We'll select that one. And what it does is, normally we'd pick the geometry, but because it's a facing operation, it's smart enough to know exactly where the boundary is for this. We're facing the top edge. It knows that because of where the Z is. So we don't even have to click the stock. We don't have to click on heights. I'm not going to worry about any of these other things for facing. Very simple operation. Select the tool and hit OK. And what we've got is the facing operation. So If you zoom out a little bit, all right, and click on Setup 1, go over here where it says Actions on the top, and then click on Simulate so we can see the toolpath. All right, so it shows the toolpath, the stock, all these things, right? And it's gonna, if we can take this here, the speed, and slow it down a little bit, and click on this Start the Simulation button right in the middle. All right, I'm gonna speed up a little bit. It shows you the toolpath it takes, and it's actually cutting the material out. You can see it's removing that material off the top face. And you can see that it plunges down away from the part and then cuts completely off the part. And then when it's done, it goes back up and it's going to go home. That's it. It just created that toolpath for you. So we'll exit the simulation. The last thing we want to do is we've got to do what's called post-processing. We're going to generate that CNC code. So we're going to go to Actions. We're going to go to Post-Process. That's what it creates machine-specific NC code for this setup. Click on Post-Process. Now, at the beginning, you're going to have to do a little bit of work on where it says Post. You're going to have to go look in this folder and find the Haas Pre-NGC or the Haas A-Axis. In your case, the Haas A-Axis Pre-NGC may work best. So we're going to select that one. And we have to say, if it says it wants you to choose a post location, click over here, click Local, all right, and then select Folder, copy to my posts, all right, and then you should see, if you put the program number in your setup, it should come up automatically. Where it says File Name, you want to put the letter O next to it, in front of it, I should say. Your comment is there if you put one in, all right, and your output folder, you want to go to Downloads, all right. Over here, some things you can control in the post. You want to make sure that optional stop is on. You want to uncheck preload tool. And there's another one that says use G0. You want to click that one on. Then you're going to click post and view NC code. You might get an error that says, or a message saying you've got to download this Visual Studio Code. Please do that. If you have to do that, you'll have to go back and repost it again. You'll have to go back to the post-processing. What you can do now is if you do Control A to select all and Control C to copy it, you can go paste this information into a Google Doc that you can save, and then you can add to your assignment if necessary. And so that's it. That's about all you have to do for a basic part program in Fusion 360 for facing.